On January 29th in 2015, Life is Strange was released. It has now been 10 years since this game was given to us by the wonderful developers at dontnod. It's crazy how much to this day I still reflect on this game and what it meant to me and what it still means to me. As many others, this game has greatly impacted me, leaving a mark that will never be forgotten. This is a love letter to the game that changed my life. I still remember the exact moment I was introduced to this game. Here I was, 14 years old, laying atop of my bunk bed, scrolling through YouTube on my busted white iPad that was attached to a blue go-go pillow, and I see my favorite YouTuber at the time, Joey Graceffa, posted a new video on his gaming channel, and I was immediately intrigued. As I started watching, I knew this would be something special. What I found most intriguing at the start was how different it was. At the time, I've never played or watched anyone play a game like this. Something so heavily story based was not in my catalog of favorite games, nor did I even know this genre of choice based games existed. At the time, my favorite games consisted of platformers like Sly Cooper and Mario, or adventure games like Pokemon. So at the time, I really had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't know I could get so emotionally attached to a game's story and characters to the point of sobbing when something bad happened. After watching the first episode, I became addicted and wanted more. Max Caulfield. Max motherfucking Caulfield. Little did I know when I saw this scared girl in a storm climbing a hill to a lighthouse that she would soon become one of my top favorite video game characters of all time. You can tell how much love Dontnod put into this game, and Max, in my opinion, is a perfect main character. She's so lovable, how can you even dislike her? From her quirky humor to her social awkwardness to the way she cares so deeply about everyone, even if they do her wrong, she's still so remorseful towards them. It's almost as if she has this third eye not everyone has. And not even including the fact that she can time travel. The way she sees the world and empathizes with everyone, she really just wants the best for people. I too find myself being overly empathetic for the wrong people, but I've come to learn there's nothing bad about that. Rebellious blue haired Chloe may be quick to judge and not make the best choices all the time, but she also can be pretty empathetic. She knows about her mistakes and does take accountability for them, well, most of them at least. All of the characters in this game have depth and leave a mark on you. They're not just fillers. Everybody has a part to the story. Some of my favorites include Joyce, Kate, and Nathan. Yes, Nathan Prescott. While he does some very messed up things, you can tell he was a good guy at one point and was just surrounded by bad people who took advantage of him. I always wish we got more on Nathan's story. I find him to be very misunderstood and I sympathize for him. Even smaller characters are very memorable from the attention to detail Don't Nod put into them. Taylor's mom has cancer and is understandably very distraught over it, but you wouldn't know from the front she puts on in Victoria's squad, so you have to catch her alone for her to show her vulnerable side. Samuel is very deep and down to earth, and all the guy wants is to take care of his squirrels. Even the homeless lady we meet once shares her past with Arcadia Bay and gives advice to Max on how to traverse it and who to really trust. Unlike a lot of games whose background characters are robotic fillers with no emotion and cheap conversations, this game is incredible at character design, having everyone impact the story and your choices. Arcadia Bay reminds me of the town I grew up in, but prettier and more interesting. Throughout the game, many people will say how run down and worse it's gotten over the years, which is most likely due to the Prescotts. It's a small town with many wanting to escape it for something bigger, something better. One of the Chloe's main tropes throughout the game is how she wanted to run away from it and never look back. After all of her trauma there, she wanted to escape. I don't necessarily consider that running from your problems, but when you go through so much in a certain location, it's completely understandable to want to leave because no matter what you do or where you go there, you are still reminded of things that used to or even still haunt you. I think that goes for a lot of people, including me. If I could forget the game, I would, just so I could play throughout its incredible story again for the first time. I really appreciate a heavily layered story. Just when you think you figured it out, you didn't. There's actually 12 more plot twists coming your way. There are so many elements to the story which never left me bored. Of course, the main objective was to find out what happened to Rachel. Saving Kate, getting dirt on the Prescotts, even helping Alyssa throughout the game were all so interesting and well intertwined that it ran throughout the whole game and wasn't so cut and dry. While I loved how chaotic the game was itself, one of my favorite things were the moments of calm we had. When we got the chance to just sit down and think about everything that's happened thus far while admiring the beautiful scenery, it was a nice time to reflect and a much needed breather from the chaos. One of the biggest lessons to learn from this game is you cannot fix everything, and that even if you had the ability to change something from your past, you might end up with something worse. Chapter 4 was a great example of this. When Max went back in time to save Chloe's dad from dying, Chloe ended up being paralyzed, and it put her parents in financial hell. Episode 5 really felt like the end of the world. Just when we thought we fixed everything after being kidnapped from Jefferson, it was not actually fixed. Going through the nightmare sequences and seeing the town get obliterated by the storm and all of the scared, hurt people, this episode was so heavy and very sad. And yet, it's probably my favorite episode. I love how many different choices there are in this game, but what I really love is how every single one has real consequences. Even the minor choices, such as watering Max's plant in her dorm the right amount so you don't kill it. It gives the game so much more replayability when simple choices like this have different outcomes. Not that you'd replay the game just to kill the plant, but you get my point. Some games struggle with this, which leads to a very disappointing ending. This aspect of the game was very eye opening to me and made me realize that literally every little thing we as humans do changes the trajectory of our future, and sometimes small decisions lead to major life changes. Starting the game off right off the bat, there is an overwhelming feeling of nostalgia. The game's graphics definitely played into that, as well as the insanely good music and dramatic lighting. The developers did a really good job at setting the atmosphere for the game. When it was calm, so was I. When it was eerie, I was on edge. It is so important for a game's legacy to actually impact your emotions and change how you are feeling when different things happen throughout the game. Otherwise, it would be forgettable. One of my favorite episodes was episode 3, and in that episode, you explored Blackwell at night. This made me feel like a kid getting to explore outside at night with no idea what's to come. Granted, you could do that as an adult, but I think you get where I'm going with this. Even though it was set at night, it wasn't particularly spooky, more so mysterious. Having the chance to discover secrets when everyone was asleep felt like we were kids playing secret agents. Breaking into the pool was a very fulfilling moment for my inner teenage rebellion that didn't see the light of day. When this game released, I was in high school, and it's safe to say those were some of the absolute hardest years of my life. Dealing with loss, trying to fit in, figuring out my identity, this game was my escape. I needed this at that time, and I will forever be grateful for it to have came out during those years. It was a great distraction being able to transport myself into the world of Arcadia Bay as Max, time traveling and just forgetting what was going on in my day to day life. I looked forward to spending hours on YouTube after school, watching every outcome, every theory, and everyone's reactions to the game. This game was a very eye opening experience for me. It's very surreal to be in this moment, writing this essay, reflecting on that time and it being 10 years ago that it came out, and thinking its existence. 14-year-old me never would have thought I would be writing this 10 years later. I also wouldn't have believed the impact this game has still left on me. It is still yet to be topped for me. Some say it's nostalgia, which might be partially true, but mostly thanks to the greatly built world and storytelling we were provided. So don't nod if you're watching. Thank you. Thank you for the safe haven you provided me and many others. This game means so much to me, and I am eternally grateful to have existed during its release. With that all being said, this has been a love letter to the game that changed my life.